First things first, I want to make a correction from my previous video. I said something about needing to own cards to make decks and that limiting me from being able to construct decks. That was because I didn't know that you don't actually need to own the cards to play them in constructed decks. Now, I imagine that this exclamation point might mean something someday, but currently is just sort of a note that you don't own all these cards, which doesn't appear to matter because you can't play constructed except in private matches, which I assume is where you don't need to own all the cards anyway. Um, Regardless, that was an observation I made in the last video that was incorrect, so I wanted to go ahead and correct that first. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, sort of my impressions so far, and sort of what this video is about. So last Saturday, I participated in a small tournament for Artifact. That's why I built this deck that you see here. And in the process of preparing this deck and otherwise playing the game, I've formed some additional impressions about the game that I think, that I'd like to share. The first thing is that the most fun part of this game is brewing decks. Just seeing what cards work, what cards don't work, because everything's new, right? Uh, Even if you played the previous version of Artifact, these are all new mechanics and effects. It's interesting and fun to explore them. Uh, that said, the other ways of playing the game, like the campaign seems alright, but that's not really my sort of thing. And the hero draft mode, I don't really enjoy very much. I think the problem I have with it is that when I lose, it's really easy to blame something other than myself for it. And that makes it a lot less enjoyable for me. Now, I know that it's like to a large degree when I lose that it really is my fault because I didn't select the right heroes and I probably made a lot of misplays and all this sort of stuff. But since I'm not constructing the deck myself, the cards that are in it being sort of random, I don't know. I don't like it that much. I'm kind of confused about what happened to Phantom Draft. That was an interesting format. That was in the previous version of Artifact, and it just appears to be gone. But anyway, more about this tournament I participated in. It was run by someone named Opsy. He's been doing stuff like this for a while. It seems like there was at least one other tournament like this. These are themed tournaments. So the theme of this tournament was that half the decks had Tidehunter and the other half did not. And each deck had to be predominantly one color. So there's like the way it was written was 3+ heroes of a certain color, so 3+ red, blue, black, and green. Uh, and then half the lists had Tidehunter and the other half didn't. The winning lists were red Tidehunter, and second place was black Tidehunter. And the first round was the Tidehunter versus no Tidehunter list for whatever color but they were predominantly. Um, but it's still it's pretty casual tournament because like normally the tournament everyone brings the best thing that they can come up with to the event, and then they just duke it out. But we were trying to, he was trying to find out how good Tidehunter was, and then after he announced the event, they changed Tidehunter and like rebalanced the game, so that sort of changed things up. He gained this ability. Uh, which honestly is very strong. Mostly just because of this part right here. So what he'll do is he'll Anchor Smash and he will deal 1 damage to all of the heroes that are near him. Or he'll just straight up attack the tower with his full power. Which, if there's no heroes next to him. Which is a real good way to just suddenly end the game. Especially combined with a lot of the other effects that allow you to sort of repeat that. That said, this is the list I put together. It has a lot of problems. A lot of them are pointed out by Opsy during his stream of the tournament, which was in the second half co-casted with Sunsfan from Dota Cinema. I'll put a link in the description to the Twitch VOD, and I'll try to put some timestamps in, at least for my matches, and then for the grand finals. If there's some interest in having timestamps for all of the other matches that occurred and like maybe seeing a bracket, I'll try and get in contact with Opsy. Let me know if you want that to happen in the comments. That said, so let's first talk about the heroes I selected. Uh, Picked Shadow Fiend, Death Prophet, Phantom Assassin, Tinker, and Lich. Uh, Shadow Fiend and Death Prophet I picked both because I just kind of like have a lot of fun with them. I feel like they interact a lot with the battlefield. Their abilities are fun, and then their signature cards are not terrible cards. Uh, Presence of the Dark Lord is certainly weaker than a lot of other things, but giving adjacent enemies -2 armor can be a really powerful effect, especially on Shadow Fiends because of how Requiem of Souls works. Uh, but the other reason that they were even more fun than they normally are is because they super buffed this item in the patch that they buffed, or well, reworked Tidehunter in. So what this does, this after combat bounces hero effect, means that every turn you get to redeploy the hero that the hourglass is equipped to, as long as the hero didn't die, and that is a very strong effect. Um, Especially on characters that have round start abilities, or where if they can avoid death, they get stronger and stronger. So Shadow Fiend normally, when he dies, he loses half the souls that he's accrued, and he gets souls by killing, or not by killing, but by having things die adjacent to him on the enemy team. So he'll typically get stronger and stronger, but he doesn't have a lot of toughness, so he'll eventually be killed, and then he'll lose all of his souls, or half his souls. Cloud Dream Hourglass can help you dodge that. It forces them to have to typically expend a card to kill him if they want him to die, rather than just have him naturally die as the course of attrition of the game. Um, Also, for those of you who are less familiar with Artifact 2.0 beta, there's not other ways to return cards to your hand that are just items like this. Uh, so this is a really powerful effect to have occur every turn. With Death Prophet, it means you get to choose what hero she starts the round in front of and who will be taking 2 damage from her by redeploying and repositioning her every turn. There's also just the fact that it lets you get reposition your heroes every turn, regardless of what they are, whether or not they specifically have some sort of mechanic that benefits from this bounce effect. And then the active effect on this makes it so that you can bounce any unit that's blocking the equipped hero. So if it's another hero, they just get redeployed next turn. If they're a unit, they'd have to be cast again, so that is true even for melee creep. Um, and the other thing so this does 2 things, right? First, it opens up the lane for the hero to attack the tower directly. But more importantly, typically you'll put a hero in front of another hero, and if you have initiative at the start of the round, you can just bounce a hero from a lane. And if there's no heroes left in the lane, they can't cast spells there. So you can just do whatever you want in that lane. Uh, and even if there are other heroes left, it still turns into a thing where they have 1 less hero than they should have had because you spent 1 mana on an activated ability. Um, like the if this specific effect was a card, it wouldn't cost 1 mana. So this is very powerful. I know it has a 3-turn cooldown, but that's kind of irrelevant because like occasionally what'll happen is that you'll play one of these and you'll have the effect on cooldown and another one coming off cooldown the turn that it's happening, that you're going to play the other one. You get to bounce 2 of their heroes. It just gets at the very least it grinds the game down if it doesn't just allow you to create opportunities to win. you know so people are expecting this to see some kind of nerf. um I think it's honestly kind of fun as far as like an overpowered effect goes. But it is obviously not acceptable that it sort of deserves to go in almost any deck you make. Uh, that's a little bit much. Um, Aside from those 2 heroes, so I included Phantom Assassin because I liked having access to coup de grace. In hindsight, I should have just played Nyx Assassin, who essentially can kill a targeted hero with his active ability once every 3 turns. It doesn't have the drawback of coup de grace where it discards a random card from my hand. It doesn't cost 5 mana, it costs 1. I can only do it once every 3 turns, but not a big deal, to be honest. And just overall more flexible, like active in a lot of ways than coup de grace, just because of how much cheaper it is. Because you have so little mana in this, since it's shared across all lanes. And then this signature card costs 2, and in a lot of cases is better than having coup de grace in your hand. So, I should have just been running him instead of Phantom Assassin. I was running Tinker as part of a strategy I was trying to perform where I had Trebuchets and Path of Cunning, and I would try to get these onto the battlefield and put a lot of pressure on towers. The Trebuchet just deals damage every turn. Path of Cunning makes towers take more damage, basically. It does this via a negative armor mechanic, which currently is bugged. Essentially, it only cares about the first it doesn't continuously update how much negative armor the tower has, and it doesn't properly apply damage when the tower's taken damage earlier that turn. It doesn't update how the armor should be affected. It's not supposed to. I don't know. The point is, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, partially because it's kind of confusing. But anyway, so that was that strategy. Like, March of the Machines also deals damage to the tower. There's just a bunch of continuous damage occurring to this tower every turn, becoming more and more severe because Path of Cunning gets stronger the more spells that you play in that lane. I might try exploring this strategy more. It was weakened by the fact that some of the other strategies I tried to deploy with it, especially the way that I personally was trying to utilize them, did not assist this one at all. So I had Arclight Elemental sort of as like a mana sink and a way to sort of add creep to the battlefield in early levels, but I only had one, so most of the time I wouldn't see it early on, and if I did see it, it would be only useful as a mana sink, but I already had mana sinks because I have all these expensive spells that I run into at the end of the game. And then the Oath, I always want to play this card, but it never works out for me. So since this silences all your units, it silences your heroes, which means that you can't play any spells or activate abilities or whatever in that lane after you cast this enchantment on your tower. So if you cast this, it had best end the game. My experiences with this is that I cast this, and then the game does not end, which is bad. So, I'm going to be messing around with this list later, potentially. But yeah, so that didn't work out. And then the final thing, like the last two elements of the deck was I had like a minor income boost strat that I tried to include, but I didn't really go very hard on it, and as a result, it never really impacted any of the games that I played. So it was really just taking up cards in the deck that could have gone to making these other strategies function better. I had all of these spells in here to allow me to interact with my opponent. These were all just ways of killing creatures or heroes. They worked alright. And then the last thing I have is Chain Frost and Exorcism. These are just big explosive spells that deal a lot of damage to a lot of things on the field. Require you to have some way of dealing with them in the case of Exorcism, and require you to sort of play around them in the case of Chain Frost. These work fine. There's nothing wrong with these. But ultimately what I lost to was No Hesitation would tend to close out games against me. I would be trying to set up these complicated long-term plays and stall out the game, and my opponent would just arrange a battlefield position in No Hesitation, which just moves that particular lane directly to combat and then kill me. That's how I died in both of the games I lost. So that's how that went. I updated the list a little bit over here. I removed the Disciples and the Oath. There's a funny moment if you watch the matches. Where I have like two and then eventually 3 Disciples of Nevermore in my hand. Nevermore being the proper name of Shadow Fiend. And I just don't cast them because I'm trying to save them for like something. I don't know. I was trying to save them so I could like do a big alpha strike and end the game with them the way that No Hesitation ended the game on me, and it just that just wasn't really the way to play them. Probably, it really didn't take advantage of the fact that I had these cheap creatures that buffed all my other units. I think I was too focused on the -1 armor effect that it gives. It's hard to say whether or not that lost me games, but it certainly seemed like it. But anyhow, so those are just removed from the deck. I haven't playtested this new version of the deck, but I think it's a lot more focused on putting pressure onto a single lane and then like passively, and then being able to win the other lanes with strong cards and removal effects and ultimately large spells. And I think that should work better than what I previously had. I'm also interested in exploring a couple of other ideas, like this hero works really well with Clashram Hourglass, so there's like a limited window to abuse this card before they fix it. Uh, that seems like it could be kind of fun, even though it's sort of lame. Essentially, what this does, so her passive makes it so that items have a one-turn cooldown on their active. That means that Hourglass is going to be able to use the active every turn, and you can forcibly give yourself initiative with this effect because she has quick cast. So what you do is you use this effect, and then you're able to perform another action immediately, and you gain initiative. If you have initiative, you get to perform the first action at the start of each turn, as long as you continue passing and you don't perform any other actions the rest of the turn. So essentially what you do is you wait until you have 1 mana left, and you activate this, and you just get to bounce whatever hero you want at the start of the next turn. That's really strong. The other thing I wanted to look into were like mana ramp effects. I'll let you guys know how that one goes. Uh, yeah. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Um, I'm not gonna include in this video because it's already getting kind of long, but I have a lot of like ideas or like mechanics that could go in this game that I think would be interesting. Obviously, I'm not actually one of the developers for this. Well, I guess I don't know, that's obvious, but I'm not a developer for this game, so my opinions are just my opinions being shed into the void anyhow. But if you're interested in hearing about like the ideas I think they could include in this game, let me know in the comments. Honestly, like if you have any feedback that you want to give me, I'm really interested in hearing it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Take care.